I kicked off the last episode of Scream Sequence talking about 1991 and the Super Nintendo. Final Fantasy II, Super Mario World, and then, get the hell out of here. Super Castlevania 4 hit the scene. Its haunting presence looming over the gray and purple console like the specter of Dracula himself. God, I love this game. But, as I stated in that video, I did not grow up with a Super Nintendo. My family did not have the money to have two consoles at once, so my brother and I had an NES, and then we were fortunate enough to get our very own Sega Genesis. And, not when it was brand new. We got it when it was quite old, it was probably used, but none of that made a difference to us. What it meant for us was Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. Are you noticing a pattern here? Getting a console when it's old and probably used meant that we had a whole library of games to experience all at the same time. God bless the days of the video store, right? Dude, Comic Zone, Maximum Carnage, please. I love the Sega Genesis. WWF Royal Rumble, Beyond Oasis, The Punisher, Death and Return of Superman, forget about it. I thought I saw all the cool stuff. I thought I was getting the best the Genesis had to offer for a kid like me. So imagine my surprise when I found out about this.
Introducing Castlevania Bloodlines for Sega Genesis. The most horrifying vampire hunt ever. 2 new heroes, plus hordes of evil enemies and ghastly ghouls. It's intense adventure from Konami.
What sucks is that I didn't even find out about Castlevania Bloodlines until I was, maybe 17 years old? Yeah, my entire childhood passed me by without even knowing that my favorite game on the console I grew up with even existed. And yeah, spoilers for the tone of this video, Castlevania Bloodlines is my favorite game in the entire Sega Genesis library. I'm sorry if you were holding out for a surprise of some sort, but there you go. So here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna walk into Dracula's castle once again, this time on the Sega Genesis. And this time, as two different people, with two different weapons, on two different paths. We'll frighten Frankenstein, we'll dap up Death, and we'll pitch a truce to Medusa, why not? You know about Elizabeth Bartley? Well, you will. I'm not trying to use a clickbaity title here. I'm being serious in saying that this is probably the best Castlevania game that you've never played. And I can say that literally because this game did not sell well. But we'll go all in on the details in a little bit. Let me thank the Patreon supporters for helping make this video possible, then we'll get down to business. Welcome to Scream Sequence, razor sharp reviews of your favorite creepy classics. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. So what I just said there before running the credits, that this game didn't sell well, it didn't, sadly. I don't know who's ready for this information, but Castlevania in general, for as well known and as storied as it is, I mean it dates back 40 years at this point, we're not talking about an extremely popular franchise when it comes to the dollars and cents. Castlevania 3 on NES, that was peak popularity on that console. Dracula's Curse didn't sell 1 million units. It didn't even crack 900,000 for that matter. And yeah, I know that's still a ton of copies sold. I mean, picture 870,000 copies of Castlevania 3 stacked up in the street outside your house. That would be an amazing visual. I'm just saying, everybody loves Castlevania, right? Everybody knows about Castlevania. But the sales figures have not always reflected that. Castlevania 1 sold over 1.2 million copies, which is super respectable. Castlevania 2 did 930,000, Castlevania 3 sold 870,000, Castlevania 4 sold 630,000. I'm telling you all of this to say that the reason I feel comfortable labeling today's topic as a game you've probably never played is because while we don't have cold, hard numbers, we have estimations. And Castlevania Bloodlines is estimated to have sold 40,000 copies. 40,000! Comparatively speaking with the rest of the games I just told you about, that is fucking insane. And I'm not talking shit, to be clear. I just wrote my own book. I put it up on Kickstarter. I sold 572 copies. I am so proud of that number. I am so grateful to all of you who supported my book. But would I kill to sell 40,000 copies of my book? Absolutely I would have. You know, that sort of thing would have changed my life forever. There are levels to this. That's all I'm saying. And I feel like Castlevania is pictured to be at, and probably should be at, a level that it just isn't. Not that I was on the internet or in tune with industry sales when I was 4 years old, but like I said, I did not even know that this game existed until I was a teenager. One of the classic questions I always like to ask on this channel is, so what the hell is going on here? In the case of Castlevania Bloodlines, it's not as simple as you might imagine. We're used to this series being, well, Dracula's back and we gotta kill him again. And while that certainly is a piece of the puzzle here, and the man himself is indeed the final battle, I would argue that the main event actually isn't Dracula. It's Elizabeth Bartley. Yeah, I told you would come to know her. This countess has traveled all over Europe, meeting with the most dastardly of dark forces, with one goal in mind: to resurrect the long-dead Count Dracula. So what do we do about it? These two jump into the fray to extinguish this flame before the embers spread across the countryside. Neither of these two vampire hunters are Belmonts, marking a huge departure for the franchise. So who the hell are they? Let's talk about John Morris. Not John Morrison, John Morris. That probably was not a good joke. This guy hasn't been called John Morrison in how long? Stay focused! Our other guy, who I thought was a girl when I first saw gameplay because of his gear and hair color, is Eric Lecarde. Eric is... Wait, let's talk about the outfit and the hair color for a second. Look at the opening cinematic. Brown shirt, golden hair, he looks like a classic fantasy character. Hercules-ish, in a way, or like Fabio from the Iron Sword cover. So who is this? This pinkish cloak with what appears to be a skirt, and is that green hair? With a blue scarf, or is it a cape? This looks like Reika from Time Gal, and I can't believe I'm making that kind of reference. This is Eric Lecarde. I don't know where he got this new outfit all of a sudden. They must have had a spot on the stagecoach over for him to dye his hair. I don't know. Or maybe it's a hood? Either way, where did it come from? I think my confusion is justified. Look at John Morris. He looks practically the same on the cover and in the intro as he does in the game. Nothing changed here. And hey, where is Eric? He didn't even make the cut to appear on the box art? That's odd. He's on the European version of the box, and... Wait, goddammit, that's the outfit he's wearing in the game! What is going on here? Why is the appearance of Eric Lecarde so inconsistent? The Japanese version of the game even changes the design of his face, making him look much more feminine than the other iterations. Is this guy a shapeshifter? I don't know. What I do know is that Countess Elizabeth Bartley is evil. She's trying to resurrect Dracula, and she's also extremely hot. So if I were John Morris or Eric Lecarde, I would fail this mission because I would kick the door down with my weapon in hand, and she would say, "Stay where you are!" And I would say, "Yes, ma'am." And then she would kill me, and I would be fine with that. We got into the story, we talked about the plot, but I got a little too hung up on outfits and hair colors, you know? We didn't quite make it to the gameplay. So this is it. Now's the time. Let's look at Eric first, who doesn't use a whip. Another big change for Castlevania. Eric has what is often labeled a spear, but to me, it's pretty clearly a trident. Call it whatever you want. It's cool. And he can use it to super jump, which creates avenues for Eric that are not available to John. I've heard many people over the years say that Eric is basically the easy mode of Bloodlines, but I'm not so sure how accurate that is. It might depend on your playstyle and skill level. Sure, certain spots are easier to traverse as Eric, but I feel like John does more damage, and he can maybe even take more damage. Is this a placebo effect? Am I off base? You tell me. John, clearly, does use a whip, and he can pull off Indiana Jones-ass swinging with it, much like Simon did in Castlevania 4. Though I must say, John's swinging animation is way, way better than Simon's. The amount of sub-weapons at our disposal has been pared down significantly. We now have just 3 options to choose from, those being the Crystal Blade Boomerang, the Sacred Water, and the Battle Axe. Having only 3 sub-weapons sounds like a disappointment, but it's not, really. I mean, think about the older games, think about how many sub-weapons they had, and then think about how many of those sub-weapons you were actually using on a consistent basis. Go ahead, think about it. Exactly. What's really cool in Bloodlines is that we can power up to the point of super moves. The sub-weapons can transform into triple shots. John's got this wacky dragon deal. Eric's got this mega explosion. These are lifesavers in certain boss fights, let me tell you. And how you doing? Let's talk about the bosses. This half-rotten, fire-breathing wolf howls into the night, shattering the windows in this corridor with the shards of glass dealing damage as they crash to the floor. This rickety suit of armor is a pain in my asshole, but check this out. Throughout the stage, the water level is rising, and when we reach the top, we find out why. This fucking guy has been raining it down, trying to drown us before we even knew that he existed. This guy has always reminded me of Rain from Mortal Kombat, and with his appearance in Mortal Kombat 1, it became even more real. Watch him turn purple. Tell me that's not an Edenian prince. I love this Golem guy who looks like he's made of lava rock, and we get to smash away the layers and chop him down to size. The gargoyle bat atop the Leaning Tower of Pisa is fast, he's enormous, and he's got some really sharp and alarming sound effects attached to him. The Gear Steamer is a being made completely of machinery that has been seemingly given life in some way. And if you want to talk about crazy sound effects for a 16-bit console, listen to this. I've never heard anything like that in any other 16-bit game. I'm not going to go through every single boss enemy here, but there's absolutely no way for me to skip over Frankenstein's monster. Did you watch the Frankenstein episode of Scream Sequence back from 2023? Probably not. Not many did, but, you know, it's still there. Give it a watch. The fucking Mothra fight is one of the coolest in the game, and I don't know how they got the license from Toho to have her here, but obviously I'm kidding. This is not really Mothra. It's the Princess of Moss. But come on, man. That's fucking Mothra. Death's boss fight is insane because he basically puts your fate in your hands. Here, pick a card, any card, and whichever card you pick is your problem. Oh, you've chosen the Golem? You gotta fight him now. You've chosen the Gargoyle? Time to battle. Yes, a portion of the Death Showdown is a boss rush, which is very Mega Man-ish. But Death plays fair. There are cards that deal out wall meat to heal you. Is it still wall meat if it didn't come from a wall? Is this card meat? The big boss herself, Elizabeth, has 2 distinct forms. There's the Medusa-like creature and her human form where she relies on this orb-based magic. Dude, Elizabeth rules. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly though, she doesn't serve as the final boss, with Dracula himself capping things off. Also with 2 distinct forms. One where he launches projectiles from his cape, the other where he morphs into this demonic flying gimmick. As per usual, defeating Dracula leads to the character in question posing for the camera while the castle collapses in the background. Classic. I labeled Elizabeth Bartley as the main event earlier, and I stand by that. Sure, Dracula might be the last guy that we fight, but he's only here because Elizabeth did the work to bring him back. This is a WrestleMania X8 sort of situation where, sure, Triple H versus Chris Jericho for the Undisputed Championship was the last match on the show, but we all know that Rock versus Hogan was the real main event, right? In my focus on the bosses, I did not give the stages themselves their due, and to skip over these settings would be criminal. We're flying all over Europe, and crossing an entire continent, as you might imagine, allows for much wider visual variety than being locked into one place. These rotating platforms spiraling around the Leaning Tower of Pisa is iconic. The reflections on the rising waters at the Atlantis Shrine in Greece. Jeez man, this will never not pop me. We have to assume these columns barely breaking through the surface are the ruins of the lost city, right? I'd love that. There are multiple sections with crumbling walkways, and there are large obstructions that we have to break in order to clear the path. From gargantuan skeletal remains to picturesque marble statues, these moments are jaw-dropping the first time you experience them. Konami approached the development of Bloodlines with the goal of making this feel specifically like Castlevania on the Genesis, which is where a lot of this stuff stems from. I've always attributed this approach to the level of violence found in this game as well. Look at Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo, where something as harmless as dripping blood was recolored to avoid any sort of concern over gore. Bloodlines has blood in its name. The goddamn main menu is soaked in the stuff, from the ocean of red below to the drips coming from the text. The fountain overflowing and changing from water to blood has us trudging waist deep through crimson tides. Good lord, the harpies. We cut their heads off and the neck stumps spray blood through the sky as they fly off in their final moments. The wolf sub-boss earlier, its head and arms explode, leaving its chest cavity wide open. Its tainted heart convulses before bursting into flames. Castlevania Bloodlines and Castlevania 4 are kind of like the different versions of Mortal Kombat on the Genesis and Super Nintendo in this regard, which is kind of cool. Though it should be noted that the game is not called Bloodlines in the European version. It's called The New Generation. And all of the cool violence I just detailed has been removed, redesigned, or recolored. That's kind of lame. If at this point you're going, man, this guy really likes this game. Yeah, dude. Look, I told you at the top, this is my favorite game in the entire Sega Genesis library. And with that in mind, I would like to take a minute or two to thank a couple of the people who made this game what it is. Credited as main designer on Bloodlines is Teisaku Seki, who also put his talents into Batman Returns, the Animaniacs game, and more. Also serving as a designer was Shinichiro Shimomura, who stayed on with Castlevania all the way into 2005's Curse of Darkness. And that's not to discount or ignore his work on 1994's Contra Hardcore, which released the same year as Bloodlines. The person I want to thank the most, though, is composer Michiro Yamane, who put together one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time here with Castlevania Bloodlines. I like this soundtrack so much that I use the Reincarnated Soul song as the official theme for my wrestling promotion, 616 Shockwave, over on GM Showdown. Season 3 in production as we speak. How you doing? Yamane's career work also includes Rocket Knight Adventures, Suikoden, goddamn Castlevania Symphony of the Night. She did work on Rumble Roses. Please, we're in the presence of royalty here. You want to talk about weird shit? How about the spores from this flower that reverse your controls if you come into contact with them? Yeah, you see how I'm moving super erratically? It's because my brain is broken. And don't even talk to me about this stage where they fuck with your eyes. This definitely takes a minute or two to get used to. And how about this section near the end where we hear the footsteps of an incoming enemy before they arrive, which is kind of creepy. We take care of business, and then all of a sudden... That shit is scary, man. That's way too fast. You gotta slow down. And I haven't even talked about the mummies who unwrap the bandages on their heads and use it as a weapon. I haven't touched on Eric's spear impaling his fallen corpse as he dies. Brutal. I find it funny how hearts used to act as our ammunition for special weapons in the older games, as that doesn't make any sense, but here in Bloodlines, the hearts are gone. In their place are gems. I still don't have much of an idea how these jewels translate into ammo, but I have a loose pitch of what might be the case. Now we got 3 types of sub-weapon, right? Let's focus specifically on the crystal blade boomerang for my theory here. Look at it. It's got a nice, beautiful crystal blade. We can probably assume that this thing is pretty valuable. Now we're also breaking walls and we're breaking candles and we're picking up all of these gems. These gems are valuable as well, so who cares if we're throwing these crystal blade boomerangs? We got all these gems that we can turn in when it's all said and done. But here's the thing. If we throw too many of these boomerangs, we're starting to cut into our profit margin here. These gems aren't going to make up for all of it. This journey is going to wind up costing us money rather than walking away with a little bit. Do you understand? Are you following along with me here? And look, even if this isn't perfectly logical, this system still makes more sense than, you know, little cartoon hearts falling out of the sky, and those are what power our weapon throws, so whatever. The architecture of Bloodlines is way different than anything we'd seen in prior titles, and that's because this game takes place in 1917. That puts it after the entire NES trilogy. Bloodlines takes place 226 years after Castlevania 4, 121 years after Symphony of the Night. All of this might explain why this guy has a fucking gun! I love this. And how about this jerk with the wheels? This section always throws me for a loop. God, I love this game. But you know very well from the intro to this video that not everybody loves this game as much as I do. And I don't mean that it has a poor reputation online. I don't mean that it didn't review well. Castlevania Bloodlines reviewed extremely well. The thing is, you know, nobody bought it. In some sense, this is one of the great shames of the 4th generation of consoles. How a game this good could perform so poorly at retail should be criminally investigated, but hey, what can you do? That's where the whole hidden gems thing comes from, right? And you know what's nice? It's nice that you don't have to go out and buy a Genesis and get a Bloodlines cartridge on eBay or anything to finally experience this title for yourself. Go on any modern console or the digital storefront of your choosing on PC and find the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. There you go. 8 fantastic games for the low price of $20. And no, this is not an ad. This is somebody recommending a top tier and cheap collection of games to you for your own good. Don't get me wrong, if Konami wants to give me money, I'll take it, but I don't know anybody over there right now. If you've slept on Castlevania Bloodlines for the 31 years this game has existed, it's time to wake up. And what better time of year could there possibly be to trek across Europe in search of the evil babe who's working with the forces of darkness to resurrect Dracula? Oh, there it is, Dan. A little bit of Castlevania Bloodlines action here on Scream Sequence. Patreon.com/616entertainment is where you can go to support me, support my work, support the channel, and to get the uncensored versions of The History of A Nightmare on Elm Street, GM Showdown 3 is in production right now. That's going to be exclusive to Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. All this stuff is over there. I do Q&A podcasts with you guys where I take your questions. How about it? Next time on Scream Sequence, I want to talk about one of the weirdest fucking games I've ever played in my life, The Suffering. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.